Good afternoon, and we're back in Newcastle again. We're actually at Newcastle Helix, which is a new student accommodation. In this area round here that you can see is where Scottish and Newcastle breweries used to be back in the day, and we're going to have a little walk down and I'll tell you the history of Bath Lane. Watch till the end and I'll tell you about the hanging and why Bath Lane got its name. So let's begin. Yeah, this area was Scottish and Newcastle's breweries bottling site for Newcastle Brown Ale. It's now a student hub called Newcastle Helix. Scottish and Newcastle closed in 2005. And the Newcastle Brown Ale moved to Fed Breweries net at Tadcaster. I'll put a link down below of a video I've done about Newcastle Brown Ale. And we'll take a walk down Bath Lane. I'm not sure if this part's still called Bath Lane. It used to be, or I think when they made St James's Boulevard, it got cut in half, so they just carried it on as Wellington Street. It's like a northern part of Bath Lane. The first building we come across is the one on the other side of the road, the People's Kitchen. It was actually built in 1878 as a meeting house for the Plymouth Brethren, a nonconformist church. Later became the Church of Science, of Christian Science, before Alison Kay founded the People's Kitchen in 1985, and that was to help feed homeless people of Newcastle. Bath Lane is about 700-year-old. It was mainly for the soldiers and carriages who moved between Newcastle and Carlisle, a route out of the city. As you can see, this is where St James's Boulevard cuts Bath Lane in half. This building there is a cooperative wholesale printing society, printing works building, or CWS Printing Works. That was built in 1890 and it was designed by a Frank West Rich, and it's got a flamboyant domed roof and tower. Before that, in 1781, this area housed a bathhouse, and that's where it gets its name, as Bath Lane. And it featured a medicated plunge pool, a cold plunge pool, and an outdoor swimming pool in the gardens. and it was fed by a stream which come out just around the top end of Park Lane, just about there, where it was called Skinner Burn. It's still there, where it's been culverted like most of the burns in Newcastle. It still runs down the east side of Park Lane, down onto 4th Street and into the Tyne. It still runs there. And that's where it gets its name. The bathhouse ceased in 1820 due to the subsidence in a nearby coal shaft, a mine shaft, and it eventually closed and was demolished in 1860. As we walk down, you can see the CWS building is now a Japanese restaurant, Hana's. And on this side, in this building was the Fever Hospital. It's now City Gatehouse. It was opened in 1804. It was a fever hospital till 1888. And it was a fever hospital for infectious diseases like cholera, typhoid and smallpox, I don't think here. And just behind City Gatehouse, there used to be a building called Rutherford School. And also, just down there was Rutherford College, which later turned into Rutherford Technical College. They were founded by a Dr. John Hunter Rutherford, who was big in education at the time. And that lane over there is Rutherford Street, which is named after him. Going down because of that, that black building or the one next door used to be a dive shop. This area here is the best section of Newcastle's medieval town wall. In this area down here, the grassed area, used to be buildings on. You can see that where we stand is roughly where Rutherford College was. And down there was houses all the way down to the bottom where you can see the Chronicle building shop. Where all this was knocked down. I'll try and find a photograph of it. You can see the towers, one there, and here Durham and Herber towers. And this ground round here used to be a garden for Blackfriars Friary, which is just behind the houses over there. And when they built the town wall in the 1700s, they had to get permission to put a gate in, which is just up the corner there and leads out up there, so the friars or the monks could get out and tend to the gardens. So on the right there is now buildings which was owned by the Salvation Army to house the homeless And then they say they used to take up to 3,000 people. But prior to that, let's see if I can dig a picture out and put it on screen. It used to be where Changes nightclub used to be. It was opened by hypnotist Romark and TV personality and comedian Bob Monkhouse. It wasn't open that long before it closed. It reopened in the 1970s as Bloomers, and then Casablanca in the 1980s, and then became Hobos before becoming Speakeasy in the 90s, and in the late 90s it was demolished, and this, like I say, was taken over. I think around this area there's also lead works, which is why this estate grassed over. There's also not far from here there was a big lunatic asylum. I think it was just up that way somewhere. And we'll come to the bottom of Bath Lane where it meets Westgate Road. You can see this end, and we're looking at that building there on the corner, which there's a bar on this corner from around about the 1850s. There's been a bar, I remember it called the Waterloo Bar, and that was here till about 1990s. That was here till about the early 1990s. You can see the Salvation Army took it over. It's now a home group for the poorer people. And like I said at the beginning, I was going to tell you about the hanging. There used to be a gallows here at the bottom of this street. Probably the most famous one was in 1792 when a William Winter and two sisters were accused of murdering a Margaret Crozier in 1791 up in a remote area just near Elsdon, near Rothbury in Northumberland. They were found guilty and they were hanged here, even though the two sisters were still saying they were innocent till the very end. William Winter actually admitted to it. After his hanging, his body was taken to Stane Cross, to just outside Elsdon, which is up on the top of the hill, and his body was put in a gibbet and left hanging there till it rotted away. It was sort of like a deterrent for other people. The gibbet is still there. I made a video, I'll put a link down below about the gibbet. It's still there, and watch that. Bath Lane has a history spanning 700 years, from the site of the first city baths to a 19th century fever hospital to an industrial hub to a nightclubs, and change to the development of the 20th century, which seems to be restaurants and the extension of probably Chinatown. If put in the comments if you can remember the nightclubs or They're even a dive centre. I'm positive it's in one of them ones up there. Or if you went to Rutherford College. I'd love to hear about them. If you did like this video, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, hit that notification bell for future videos, and we'll see you on the next one.